financial experts for them. And they said that they believe that there will be an attempted military coup in 2012, which I thought was quite interesting, that they would come out and even discuss this and get themselves taped on it. And so obviously they're very concerned, and I'm sure that any such military coup were to occur.
But of course, that's assuming the military coup would try to restore our Constitution. Actually, we know there was an attempted military coup during the Roosevelt administration. Smedley Butler wrote about that, and certainly there was another one during the Nixon administration before he was impeached. And of course, all of those were to actually impose an authoritarian dictatorship, not to restore our Constitution. So if the CFR is talking about it, you can be sure they're not interested in preserving our Constitution, because they hate our Constitution, they hate freedom, they believe in rule by the elite, and they're the elite.
It'll either go one or two ways. They're either creating such a coup, which they can control, as you just said, which would come out of the Pentagon, or they might be expecting a coup from persons unknown who they can't control. So only time would tell. But for them to come out and discuss it is a big change. And it's an important event. And I'm glad I picked up on the tape, and it'll be in the next issue.
All right, we're certainly going to look forward to that. And I saw a fascinating interview today, actually, with Ron Paul interviewing Paul Volcker and asking him, what is really planned? What are you planning on doing? What are they doing at these meetings? And it was really, for our listeners out there, Paul Volcker is one of the major architects of everything going on, former chairman of the Fed, the chairman of the North American group of the Trilateral Commission, permanent chairman, as a matter of fact, advisor to the president. I mean, he's on every bad organization, Bilderberger's Council on Foreign Relations. And when Ron Paul asked him, what are you going to do? What's going to happen? Where are we going with this system, which obviously is not going to work, and everything you're doing is only making it worse? Volcker's response was, well, I can assure you that there are no meetings going on and no plans being made. And I'm sitting there thinking, Paul Volcker, one of the most powerful and influential men in the world, tells us that there are no plans. Of course there's a plan. The plan is to bring a world government to plunge us into chaos, and he knows what the plan is. And Henry Kissinger laid it out in that January 12th article in the International Herald. But the last thing they want is for the American people to know that these people want to take away freedom. They believe in an elitist form of government. There's not that very many of them. There's only 5,000 in the CFR, the Bilderbergers, and the Trilateral Commission. The Trilateral Commission is pretty close to the top of this pyramid of power, of wealth, of people whose loyalty is not to the United States, but to this globalist dream. And behind that, of course, I believe in the powerful spiritual forces that are energizing this movement for a one world government. But you go ahead, Bob.
Well, in 1967, I boiled the whole thing down to, very simply, it's a fight between our Lord and Satan. And they're on Satan's side. And it doesn't get any simpler, more explicit than that. That's just the way it is. And this is what we're fighting. And we will continue to do what we can do as long as we can to thwart these forces of evil. But that's what they're up to. And as Stan and I know, and many of you do, they've been trying to do this for a long time. And they've been usually met with unsuccessful attempts. And here they think this time they've got it all together. And I think they're wrong. I think they are going to be unsuccessful. And one of the strong reasons is Stan and I get letters from all over the world from people who say, hey, thank you. We really didn't understand what was going on, and now we do. And now we're questioning the veracity of the people who run our countries and who their allegiance really is to. Is it to the people, or is it to this band of 5,000 that are not happy being wealthy and prosperous, they must have world domination. And I think what's going to happen 2 to 3 years from now, when this whole thing starts coming apart, I think that they're going to find there's going to be a lot of opposition in a lot of places that they never expected it. And the word that we're getting out is extremely important because people are looking for answers, not all of them, but many of them. And as we go along, there will be higher unemployment. Things will change in America and throughout the world dramatically. And people will be reaching out for knowledge, and that's why we continue to do what we do.
Well, I do think that more and more people are at least willing to listen, and certainly as we see the cascade of home foreclosures increasing, as we see so many good businesses, solid businesses, laying off large numbers of people, a lot of executives losing their jobs, people who work for the government, at the state or a county or local level who never thought they'd lose their jobs, and suddenly there's no money to pay for them and they're getting laid off. At least I hope some of them are going to start asking, why is this happening? And of course, it's happening on purpose. The people in charge were not stupid. They didn't have to precipitate this at this time. They were doing fairly well if they'd just acted responsibly. But of course, they have not. They have actually massively increased the money out of there. They created bubble after bubble after bubble. And I mean, the stock market bubble and the housing bubble and now the bond bubble. But the next big bubble is going to be when that derivative bubble breaks. Why, heaven help us all.
Well, you got to throw in there the credit card bubble, and one of the most important under derivatives is the bubble that is going to really destroy the pension plans. Now, most of the pension plans as of today in the S&P 500 are probably off since the high in the market around 50%. It varies widely. It all depends on the mixture of stocks, but just based upon the Dow Jones Industrial Average, it's 50%. And there are funds and mutual insurance companies which have a big bond portfolios, and they might be off 25%. So they are doing considerably better. I was appalled in 1986 when pension and profit-sharing plans started buying stock because theretofore they had all only bought bonds. It was safety of principle and, this 7% return. But that wasn't good enough for the CalPERS and the California State Teachers pension plans. They went berserk. And as a result of their, we'll coin this word, berserkness, those two funds are in serious, serious trouble.
Well, I think you call it greed is the term, Bob. And of course, they were paying their fund managers by the amount of money they could make. And you could make a lot of money taking these very unsafe risks. But as long as you were making a lot of money and of course, you were getting massive bonuses. I'm talking about, hundreds of millions of dollars a year managing these funds, profits, because, your salary was based upon how well things did. And it was great, of course, when things were going up. But when the market turned, none of them offered to give the money back. And, of course, they just left the pensioners losing half their money. And believe me, this is just the beginning. And, of course, many of our corporations are not in a position possibly to go ahead and replenish the money in those stock funds. Well, Bob, one of the things that really is bothersome is that many of the corporations just don't have the money to make up the funds there in the pension funds, which means that the pensioners, the companies are either going to have to put the money in, and if they do put the money in, then of course they're going to, the company's got to go under, and if they don't put the money in, they're going to have to go bankrupt, and then of course restructure the company, and then push the responsibility for the pension shortage off onto the federal government because they have this pension guarantee fund. But the trouble is that they're running out of money too. So what's going to happen?
They're behind $24 billion.